Hi, this is Ari Kopel with Shattering the Matrix. Today I have Crystal Andasola, and we're going to be speaking about radiation and all the different things that are happening in our environment that are pretty obvious by now and are taking a toll not only on the planet but on all life, and how it's affecting us specifically, especially when we are all, beings that are beings of energy, beings that vibrate, and so how that's going to be affecting us as well with our potential ascension and whatnot. So, Crystal, welcome tonight again.
Oh, good evening, beloveds, and thank you so much, Ari, for inviting me also to be a part of this wonderful information, or not so wonderful, but at least it's an awareness, and I'm very, very grateful that we are, assisting people in kind of waking up and being aware to what's happening out there in the planet and the powers that think they be.
Correct. Yes, they think they're being, but they're not. So their time hopefully is very, very close to ending. And that's assuming that, of course, we are all on board, with being a little bit more responsible, with taking a look at what's happening, what's transpiring on the planet. We cannot just assume that something external is going to happen and take care of business and clean up the mess. So, and this is why, Crystal and I are on these shows. It's not because we have nothing to do, on a particular evening that we get together and have this conversation. Although it's fun, we like talking with one another. We have a blast. Sometimes we don't. But it's mainly to bring awareness and to get us focused, to get us all on the same page with this same information so that we can be empowered. So let's talk about the radiation. I know that you've heard the last interview that I had with Lorraine Moret, which was an extraordinary interview.
Absolutely.
And also,
real quick, Ari, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to say thank you so much to you and Lorraine Moret. The information was absolutely profound, and I just really honor and admire her courage for coming out and bringing this topic up so that people can really have an understanding of what's going on. I think it's really important, and the courage that it takes for her to speak about this is, what a hero. She's a hero in my perception. So I just really wanted to give a huge thank you to her direction as well as yours for having that show.
Well, thank you, and Rose Page as well.
Yes,
she's also a hero in coming up, and with the radio show, speaking up and everything in reference to what she observed in Christchurch, in New Zealand while she was there with the Christchurch earthquake. So all of that, all of us that are speaking out and going public and writing blogs and, getting out of their comfort zone, that is, we're being in service to humanity. And that's what we're trying to do, because a lot of us are not aware of these things. And I think you brought up something today when you were speaking with me, is that something which is very, very true, that a lot of us, especially here in the United States, are very comfortable in a way. We hear about, things like radiation, Fukushima, and then this new one that just happened in Ukraine. And we think it's somewhere else, because it is somewhere else on the planet. It's not in our backyard, so to speak, right? But, we're all in this little tiny bubble, this little globe, like a little marble in the sky, in space. And everything that happens one place, it's the butterfly effect. If it happens one place, it definitely will affect us eventually. And it's almost like, I think I made the analogy of us being in in like a little fish bowl. You know, you have two little fish. One does its little poopy business, you know, in one part of the bowl, and you're on the other side of the bowl. Eventually, that poopiness is going to get to you because you're enclosed. So we've got to really pay attention. Just because it's not happening in our backyard, it does affect everyone and everything because we're all interconnected. And so let's talk about that a little bit more. Explain. Let's explore.
Well, and it affects the generations to come. And one of the things, Ari, that I was, you know, kind of overwhelmed in listening to the interviews is that what these two beautiful ladies are bringing to the table is information that, you know, I was privy to back in 2010. You know, I also speak of prophecies as well, and I think one of the things that was disturbing to me is that there's a lot of the belief systems of, you know, conspiracy theories or the light practitioners, don't look at this, don't look at that, focus on the light, focus on the good, you know, which is all fine and dandy. However, we, exactly as you said, whatever happens on, you know, one side of the planet or the other affects us as a whole. And the technology that's out there, Ari, and part of this Operation Population Majority Control, also known as New World Order, it's really real. And one thing that I really want to you know, help with the listeners is that it's not about to generate fear. As I've talked about before, information does not have to necessarily translate into fear. But I think it's really important that we are aware, we the people, you know, are aware. I think it's definitely an injustice. It's a chemical genocide amongst humanity as a whole. And, you know, there are a lot of people, Ari, that work in different government jobs or different aspects of life that these powers are actually using unbeknownst to the people, you know. So I think it's, you know, this information is, and the information getting out there and people actually looking at it is very important.
Yeah.
You know, I know that the average person, Ari, says, well, I'm just one person in the world and, you know, I can't do anything about it. But collectively, and being aware and talking about it, it lets those powers that think they be, it lets them know that we're onto them, that we're not just sitting here in a slumber and occupying, you know, the realm of stupid while they, you know, come with their technology to eliminate, you know, a lot of the population on the planet.
Mhm. Yep. Well, you know, the thing is true that it's important that people, you know, just don't, you know, just take this information in and then it you know, not do anything with it, because they're counting on the fact that, yeah, you know, they're at the point where they're in our face, and they don't really care that you know, because they kind of know how we behave. Sort of, you know, Think about it. We learn about these things. We know about the chemtrails. You can't get any more blatant than what they're doing in the skies. Okay, it used to be before. Oh no, they're contrails. You know, that's just the plain. But now they're not even denying what it is. They don't deny it, and so there's a lot of people now that know what the word chemtrail is. But have we done anything about it? No, because we just won't. Because why? We're suckered into our everyday life because they've said it that way, so that we're trapped in the hamster wheel thing where we can't get off that hamster wheel no matter what, because they set it up that way. That's how intelligent they are. And it doesn't matter how much we know that it's the Bilderbergs or Rothschild or whatever, whomever you want to appoint as the czar of the Illuminati, the czar of the reptilians. It doesn't matter that we know where even the guy lives, okay? We're not going to do anything about it. I mean, do you really see somebody going out there and actually bringing in a battalion of people and saying, hey, dude, you're under arrest? Do you really see that? Because I don't.
No.
No, because they know we're not going to do squat. That's the nature of humanity.
They've conditioned humanity to be complacent and distracted.
Completely.
Distraction.
Completely.
And it works for them.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the analogy is like having, the cattle. You have one dude who's the rancher. You have the cattle. You can have thousands of cattle, and they're all been enclosed for years. And the one dude opens up the gate, and the cattle may not even move from there because, they're conditioned. The same thing, with that elephant on a chain, He's been there for so long. You take the chain off, that elephant is not going anywhere. And we've been conditioned the same way. So the information is important as long as we do something with it, because then otherwise it's just another bit of information to store in your brain along with everything else that we store, and we just don't pay attention to it, and we don't care because we've got Christmas and we've got bills to pay, and we've got the car that's falling apart and whatnot, and that's the problem. So my whole ordeal has been, of course, to bring this up to those that supposedly work for the light, the ones that have deemed themselves as so-called light workers that have a little bit more of a knowledge about the higher things, where we really come from, where we're really going and all that, because I was hoping that we would make a difference. But you know what? Some of the masses are more awake than even the light workers. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I agree with you, and it's disturbing to me, Ari, because, again, I go back to, when all of this first started coming out, and there were so many people that were divided. And when I go deep within and I communicate and connect with Spirit and Source, it's like, what are we, the people, doing that really contributes, that makes this possible for them? And it's that duality and separation. It's, which is, again, one of their things that they do is to create separation, that people are on, we have now become either a red country or a blue country rather than united. And I've always been taught that there are more of us than there are of these elite people. And I think that talking about things and bringing it up to the surface, it hits the collective consciousness. And again, there are people in, certain jobs and whatever that can, start making a difference. I feel exposure is and especially through media, is one of the greatest defenses that we have. True.
So it goes out into the collective consciousness. Everybody is able to at least pick it up as if it was kind of like radio waves, and they start getting, on board with, this kind of information, and they become more aware of things that maybe they weren't aware before, which I totally understand that, and I think that's a good thing. It's the cattle being aware that they're enclosed. but not doing anything about running down the one dude who's controlling them. That's the problem. But hopefully that will change. We hope. Okay, so
but I think we can change also, Ari, and like even in our elections, I've always found it intriguing, how these politicians, and they come out with their commercials and their whatever, and they start attacking the other one and this and that, and we the people buy into that nonsense rather than bringing up, what are our real concerns for our country. And I think our environment needs to be the number one priority, and I think that the people need to start commanding that from our world leaders. I really do. I mean, I know it sounds, maybe some people think, oh, yeah, well, we got a better chance of seeing Jesus. Maybe we do. I don't know. But I personally feel like, if we can all become united and educate ourselves and become aware and do everything that we can to be a part of the solution, or at least bringing it to, the attention, start writing your Congress people, your senators, the presidents, whatever it takes, that we're aware of it, and we're not just going to sit here and take this kind of, bullshit and lay down and die, which is exactly what they want.
Right. And again, it's possible that people have been doing that, and because there's been no real change, and the elections are, they're manipulated, and everything is, it's just not working the way we think it's supposed to be working, because it's all, behind the scenes. They're really controlling everything. I have a feeling that it's very possible that just people, that they just give up, and they don't, they're not proactive, because they've learned that it doesn't matter how much they raise their voice, doesn't matter how many times they march, it's not, working in favor for the people. Although, Lauren did bring up a really good point that it was a bunch of grandmas that stopped. I don't remember what she said, that it was a march of a bunch of grandmothers got together and stopped nuclear. It was either nuclear testing or something back in the day. So
it showed up at the White House, and that's my point. Like, guys, that really, and thank you for bringing that up, because that really stood out to me, as well as I'm not sure if it was Rose about, the women. Power to a woman is to love and nurture, and I think that, it will be the divine feminine that will anchor peace on earth. I know that I am constantly writing the Durango Herald, about the chemtrails, trying to bring awareness. And I've noticed that, I'm chipping away, and the more that I chip away, the more people that I hear from, the more people, meaning I've noticed, Ari, just in my own, group of people that I communicate and clients and whatnot, that at least people are now getting off of the idea that they're contrails from passenger airliners. Mm-hmm. So I do, there is progress can be made. I do feel like the divine source creator is also, the most powerful energy, mm-hmm. if you will, in the entire existence. And so part of me feels like, there will be a divine intervention once we can show Creator that we do care.
Exactly. I totally agree with you on that. And that's the part that it takes initiative, it takes courage, and, listening to this kind of radio show, or maybe not this one, but somebody else's that talks about similar subject matters, that are about topics that are not exactly, fuzzy and warm and nice, but having the courage to hear them is part of the solution, because you cannot address something, correct something, if you don't know that there is a problem.
Correct.
So part of the responsibility that we have, not only as spiritual beings, but just members of this society, members of this world, custodians of this world, is to really pay attention. Let's just go for a second to the movie Avatar, which is one of my favorite movies in the whole wide world. I love that movie. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the Navis, the natives there, the Navis, not paying attention to what was happening in their environment, that there were intruders coming in? They were so in tune to their world, to the nature, to nature, and to the spirits that lived in nature, and so that everything went out of balance when this intruder came in. That's the way we need to be. We need to be continuously in tune, with what's happening in the world around us, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and because that's what we do as custodians. everything isn't pretty. Everything isn't, wonderful. And because we are in this realm that is kind of the denser kind of realm that we happen to be in right now experiencing, we have to be, cognizant of the ugliness of what's going on, what has transpired that has actually caused a schism or a rip in what could have been the divine blueprint of Prime Creator. Obviously, things are not the way they should have been. And so, therefore, it is our responsibility to not only be aware of it, but to figure out ways creatively and working together in unison to make this work again, to work the way it's supposed to be working, in alignment.
Very well said. You have to look at the problem in order to find a solution. And I think that is really, really important. And at the same time, I think that was kind of the downfall of humanity. I think that the powers that think they be, created these, that's just a conspiracy theory and blah, 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 and, convinced a lot of people that it's just nonsense or it's not for real or, it's generating fear and all of this other stuff. And forget all that. It's really happening. Look up, people. Look up. And I shared this with you per our conversation, I think it was yesterday or the day before, but I feel like I really want to share this. So I had gone to Grand Junction for Thanksgiving we go there every year for Thanksgiving dinner with my mother-in-law. And I kid you not, Ari, they did an assault on top of an assault. I mean, I've seen some chemtrail assaults before, and I call them all-out assaults that have just blown my mind. But on Black Friday, it was unbelievable. I seriously could not believe. There had to have been 30,000 planes in the air just spraying. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I, as an observer, and I revere myself as a very mindful person. I'm observing, masses of people. People are out for the holiday sales and in the Black Friday lines at 4 a.m. and so on and so forth to get the best deal. And I'm looking at, who's looking up. Looking up at the skies and noticing that, these chemtrails are just, the sky was all but black, and just completely unawareness, just people, more paying more attention to being that first or whatever person in line and, not really looking up and noticing how horrible these all-out assault chemtrails are. And those chemtrails are a lot more dangerous than I think what the general public, even those people that are aware of them, really realize. They intentionally put them out in masses on holidays or, Super Bowls, during certain events, they'll come out and spray because then they can get more people. And those chemtrails are actually designed to target specific bloodlines. And believe me, folks, the government knows your DNA, your lineage, far well before you do. It all goes into one big data center, and that's what they target. So, whether it be football games or holidays or Black Fridays or Thanksgivings, they're going to take advantage of, the masses when they're out there, the Olympics. So if people start paying attention, like really start paying attention and looking up and seeing the big old ugly smear in the sky, the day will start out. The day will start out completely blue skies, sun is shining, and before you know it, it's just one big smear.
Yeah, they're basically, spraying you like cockroaches. You know, and it's, think about it, it's the collective consciousness of those people. I mean, we talk about the masses that are out in a specific event. You know, they're already in a frame of mind where they're not really thinking about, oh, they're spraying me, or there's a conspiracy going on to create the next 9/11 or another nuclear plant. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about their favorite team, about their the hot dog, make sure that it's not overcooked, that the beers are cold, and whatnot. And, their mind is as simplified as it can possibly be. I think that an amoeba has more of an IQ at that point.
Correct. And they bank on that. I mean, they study people, they bank on that. They know the pattern of humans. They know the routine. They know that they've conditioned society and humanity to be distracted. Mm-hmm. And I think distractions are, very dangerous. I think that that's kind of where, I think that's where we need to strengthen our unity. I think that awareness, talking about it, I know that any time that I mention or bring up the chemtrails to my local newspaper and write an article on it, I guarantee you they will stop spraying. I actually come across an email from another lady that particularly noticed the same thing, that whenever she talks about them or writes a blog or calls her congressperson or senator, they'll stop. But here's what's interesting. They stop long enough, so that when people they're like, okay, they're on to us, and people are looking up, it's like, oh, no, they're not there. That's when you're going to actually get those blue skies, and they're going to stay blue throughout the day. But they know it's only a matter of time before the masses fall right back into their comfort zone and get back to their distractions. Yep. And so sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 2 weeks, but I have paid very particular attention in noticing their pattern and how their carry-out is. So, for me, I'm thinking, well, if the more we can talk about this, the more that we can put this on the forefront of we the people agenda, which, it's kind of more like we the people my ass these days. Mm-hmm.
Yep, I know.
The more that I don't know why they stop whenever it's talked about or mentioned, but I do know that it stops. I also know that Foster Gamble at one point, I'd had a conversation with him back in 2011, I believe, and I brought something to his attention about the chemtrails, and I know that was one of the subjects that was very important to him, and his plan was to follow the money. And if you can follow the money, you can get to, kind of who's behind it and who's doing it. And I think that we, the people, there's more of us than there are of them. And, these are serious things that need to be talked about rather than abortion rights and other things that we've just been beating the dead horse over and over again. I just think that some of these campaigns, that these senators and, the election time goes through is just redundant, and we the people keep buying into that rather than bringing, the environmental issues right to the forefront of discussion, like the chemtrails.
Sure. Well, to me personally, and I know that a lot of people are of the same, thought, okay? To me, it's war. And I know you are probably of the same thought.
Yep.
It's like,
it is war.
If they are spraying something on us that we don't know what it is, whatever it is, whatever chemical it is, that whether it's known or not known, the kind of consequences it can have on us, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritually, or whatever, okay? If it has a consequence, some kind of ramification that, that will jeopardize us in any of those bodies, okay, then to me, they don't have my consent. I haven't given my consent. You haven't given your consent. The majority of us on this planet have not given our consent. And if they're doing this and jamming it down our throats, then it's war. If somebody did something like that to me in a business transaction, that they jammed something down my throat that I didn't ask for, I would go to court.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, my rights have been infringed on. Okay, what's up with that? So I would find justice for that. So why is it that we are not, all bent out of shape over this? I mean, we can talk. See, here's the thing. We talk about this until we're blue in the face. And I know that I'm originally from Cuba. That's where I was born. My parents are from Cuba, and being raised in Miami, Florida, I will hear, throughout my youth, all the way till now, until recently, until I just moved to to Tennessee, the Cubans will sit around a little cafe, sometimes playing dominoes, sometimes just shooting the breeze, and they'll talk and they'll scream and they'll all about Fidel Castro and about the regime, and you know what? But none of them have done squat about trying to do anything about it. Okay?
Right.
So all they do is talk and talk and talk, and they've spent a whole generation doing this. Okay? And to me, it's just a pastime. It's talk is cheap. And it's a pastime, it's a hobby, it's a way of entertainment, and that's what we are doing now. And that's the way I feel, okay, that I see that we spend a lot of time talking about it and, putting up articles and YouTube videos on chemtrails and about this and about that, but where's the outrage? Where are the people in the street? Why aren't we?
Where's the protesters around that,
well, there should be more. I mean, because obviously we're not making the dent. It's still happening. So what I'm saying is, okay, so they're obviously, these planes are taking off from some airport. They're coming into some airport. Why aren't we finding this out? Why are we not? It's war, okay? It's no different than a Nazi plane forget the Nazis.
It's no different than the concentration camps where they herded all of the people like cattle and sprayed them. The only difference is it's a modern day version.
It's a modern day
version. There's not a fence around us
with modern day chemicals and more sophisticated technologies.
Yep.
And what I'm saying is that it's no different than maybe North Korea sending a plane here and shooting us down. I mean, why aren't we looking at ways of defending ourselves? Because it is war. I am so sorry. Just because they're not, killing us directly with bullets, okay, it doesn't mean that they're not killing us.
No, it's a chemical genocide. It really, really is. And they are so sneaky and slick about it, and it's been something that's been in the plans with these secret societies for a long, 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 long time. And part of it is the distraction. And so if people can, it goes back to that discipline, Ari, that I've talked about in pretty much every interview and show that we've done is, that mindfulness, the awareness, talking about it. I know that I've called the senators. I've chewed them up one side and down the other. I don't care if they're hearing me or not. I'm going to do something about it, at least what I can, making people aware of it, because I do believe that, as I said before, we the people need to really stand up and look at this. Because it is war, and they are killing us.
They are
look at the cancers, look at the diseases. It's out of control.
And it's even worse than that, because between the radiation and between the chemtrails, what they're doing is they're messing with our field, with our energy. Okay, we're spiritual beings. They're preventing our ascension. They're preventing us from returning to God.
Yep.
Okay, that's what they're doing. That's it's the ultimate war, okay, for the soul of humanity. And see, it's not just about the physical, because a lot of us that are listening to this show now, and if you're a Christian, you know that there's life after death. But this is the battle for collecting our souls, folks. And it's not just about the physical anymore. Yes, we are getting sick. Yes, but see, here's the secret. See, when we get sick, when we are so ill, the last thing we can do, because our energy is so low, our vibration is so low, that it's hard to connect to the divine.
Yep.
So what do you think that this is planned? Do you think that this is something that is an intelligence behind this? Folks, this is like the ultimate warfare that we're dealing with here.
Yeah, and it's intended to lower your consciousness.
Completely.
It's intended to keep you
in the lower vibration, in the lower consciousness.
About. Yes,
yeah.
It's intended to specifically interfere in your own divine birthright to be connected to divine source and creator of all that is of oneness. It is absolutely intended and created for that reason alone, and it is about the soul. And thank you for bringing that up, because this goes way beyond than just the physical.
Yep.
It really is about collecting souls and keeping them, harnessed.
In bondage, keeping them in bondage, keeping them trapped.
Yep.
So talk to me. Well, not just to me, because you already talked to me about this. Let the audience in on the conversation that you and I had in reference to the chemtrails being over specific areas that seem to be where there's more concentration of light. Can you talk about that?
Yes, they actually, and let me explain something to all the people. The chemtrails, not only are they just spraying for the fact of to create disease and to break down lineages and to kill people, but the intelligence and the technology that goes behind it is far more greater than your human consciousness can even comprehend. I'm not even kidding you. They have the technology, Ari, where they can fly over and they can literally monitor the vibrational ratio of light that's being generated from a specific geographical location. Mm-hmm. And remember that inside those chem planes are barrels and barrels. They look like beer kegs, okay, that have specific, different chemicals, different poisons, different whatevers, and that determines, what they're going to spray on what area. But they can actually fly over a geographical location, monitor the vibrational ratio of light, and then they go in and they do all-out assaults, and particularly wherever there are vortexes or portals that are, of high consciousness or, higher vibrational energies. And they can even hone in right down to your house, right down to the person that is generating the light. Their X, that X means X marks the spot. They do X's, A's, and O's. And forgive me, I'm a little bit kind of tarnished on, it's all about around black magic. That's what their X's, A's, and O's mean. It's like the sacrifice to Lucifer. I think the A's are the sacrifice. The X marks the spot, which means you have been chosen to be a sacrifice. But they'll go right over your house. The day that I had my conversation with Foster Gamble, when him and Kimberly set out to do their, mock-up of the Thrive movement and start, spreading, getting that out and doing their traveling, the day that they were leaving, there was an X right above their house. So, start paying attention to those X's. And sometimes you'll see XXXX. I mean, it's just unreal. The technology is beyond human comprehension. It's very, very technical. And so that's when they start spraying. And then what happens, and if you pay very close attention, like be the observer, people, please be the observer, you'll start seeing people will be angry, there are a lot of anxiety, frustrations, irritations, everybody's, grumpy, sick, just low consciousness, opposed to on days when they're not there. So they actually are creating irritation, agitation, duality, separation, keeping people separated.
Yeah.
So they can actually, the technology is profound. And then you put in the factor that they actually have specific chemicals that they spray that target specific bloodlines. So if your bloodline is maybe susceptible to lung cancer, or let's say, you have a genetic whatever in your lineage that's autoimmune. That's another huge thing.
Huge.
Autoimmune. And so, again, it can never get traced back to the air quality or the chemtrails, because all of these people die of natural causes. But look at the rate of our autoimmune diseases that are just running rampant.
Rampant, yep.
And I'm sorry, but, it truly, truly interferes in the divine blueprint of our energy field in how we were created.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And it brings up a point that, we really need to snap out of whatever stupor or deniability that we have at this point. Because by the time that we all come into an agreement and realize that, oh my God, this stuff is for real, it's already at the point of no return. It's already too late to actually take back the planet, to do anything about it. I mean, we're almost at the brink as we speak. That's how far advanced their technology is via their interaction with negative alien technologies and whatnot. Believe me, folks, this is not science fiction. Unfortunately, we wish it were, right? Because,
man.
I mean, unfortunately, science fiction is just taking their stories from reality. That's what's happening. But we really need to start thinking about protecting ourselves is what I'm trying to say. Shielding ourselves, and how do we do that? Well,
I'm glad that you said that, Ari, because one of the things that is very, very important is that pineal center. I've spoke about this in a lot of my past shows with you in the Ascension Protocols of the Human Body, and all of that. I think that information, I found it a little ironic that it's sitting there in the archives, and then here you do these beautiful interviews with Loren and Rose, and there's the confirmation and the validation. There's your whistleblowers, folks. But the biggest thing, and I want everybody to hear me crystal clearly and clear as crystal, they know that your pineal center is literally your spiritual gland. They know that's your connection to source, that's your connection to all that is of oneness. And so if they can keep compromising the pineal center, particularly the pineal center with fluorides, radiation, all of these things that keep the energy frequencies, that meaning the vibrational octave that the human body has the potential to generate or not generate, that's what we have to pay attention to. When I tell people, these X's, it is so blatant, Ari. I kid you not. I could line a room full of people that have seen these X's directly over crystal's house. How do I protect myself? Oh, it's unbelievable. It makes your mouth drop.
Yeah.
But what I do is the water, the crystal ascension water, the crystal ascension herbs, and the opaline solution oxygen. It really, really is the antidote. It is so beneficial. And I'm not putting this out there to be a marketing whatever, Ari. I really don't want that to be misinterpreted. This is information that's out there, and that's how I protect myself. And also with, my crystals, prayer. I mean, it's like having a formula to the antidote. You know what I'm saying? Because anything that's out of balance can be put back into balance. And if you are somebody that's like we have the pineal formula, and I have a lot of people and a lot of listeners that take the pineal formula daily, that is one means of defense that you can, have control over, is having and maintaining very good health. Many people do not know that also part of the technology of these chemtrails and the nanotechnology is to compromise the immune system through the gut, in the small intestines. So, again, staying on those probiotics, keeping, the good little army fighters in your digestive system. All disease, Ari, starts in the gut.
Yeah,
and they know that. They know that, and they know that the majority of the people don't know that. So this is why it's important to talk about this, because that information that I just provided is invaluable. It's priceless.
Oh, for sure. And it goes further too, folks. I mean, we know that radiation right now is a major problem. Okay, and it's not just the Fukushima, the winds carrying that radiation over the country. Obviously the United States, but all through that West Coast. We have that Chernobyl stuff is still going around, and now we've got
they harp the winds. They make the winds.
Yeah, they harp the wind.
The winds.
It's deliberate. So what I'm saying is that our food is severely compromised now. Right? Yep. And if you listen to the show with Lorraine Moret, not only the show that I had with her, but all the shows that she's had, all the interviews that she's given, there's one specific thing that resonates in my mind specifically, because I went and got specific training on this. And what I'm talking about is growing your own food. Folks, you're going to have to start thinking about that. And if you have a garage, if you have a little greenhouse or something that you can grow indoors or covered, this is going to be really, really crucial. And it's what a horrible thing to even be talking about, that we would have to get to that point in our history to even be thinking that we have to shelter our food, folks. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely just the most horrific, satanic. I mean, how low can we have possibly have gotten in the history of humanity to have to, grow food hidden from, the darkness that's creeping over us? Because that's what it is when they're compromising our food in that way. And a lot of us think that we're doing such a great job in being able to, buy organic food and stuff. Folks, that's not organic, okay? When they're spraying chemtrails and it's landing on your food, when radiation is landing on your food, okay, it's no longer pristine, is it?
Absolutely. It's in the water, it's in the food,
it's everywhere.
It's in the air that we breathe. I mean, they are slowly but surely not only killing the inhabitants of planet Earth, but killing planet Earth. And one thing that I would like to add to the growing food is really, put a blessing on everything. Ari, I cannot believe the difference in my life, my food, my digestive, everything, since I am aware and intentionally, I bless every single thing that goes in my mouth. And I'm telling you, it really does make a difference. It really does, because it's our birthright. When you invite Creator to come in and bless you or heal you, it works.
It does work. It definitely works. And the thing is that a lot of us are out of practice from doing that, or we've never done that. We've kind of taken stuff for granted, and we really need to stop doing that, folks. We really need to take a moment or two or three, or you know what? The more we're into that mindset of blessing, and being in the mindset of gratitude, you start changing. Not only you start raising your consciousness, but your vibration goes up octaves. I mean, it really does. You start tapping into those higher realms.
Yes, and that vibrational octave, that is the key. That right there, it's the answer, it's the solution, it's everything. And everything goes into the collective consciousness. Mm-hmm. So rather than, 6 million people doing it, we need to keep getting this out there to where all 7 billion occupants on the planet, where it becomes practice. And the one thing that I can assure everybody is that if you put some sort of spiritual practice in the front, very first thing before you get dressed and go out into the hurry, worry, scurry matrix, if you can find whatever it is, whether it's prayer or an affirmation or a blessing, and just align yourself with Creator, the God of your knowing, the God of your understanding, and do a prayer, and then go out into the world, everything else in your mundane life will absolutely fall into alignment. And so this conversation tonight, it may have that kind of whatever, doom, whatever around, what we don't want to look at, but at the same time, this darkness is happening because it's really what's kicking us in the butt to make us wake up and be the spiritual beings that we were created to be. Exactly. And that consciousness, and that's what I want to keep talking about, that we talked a little bit about the random acts of kindness and how to raise people's self-esteem and to raise their vibration is to be in service. And when you put that intention out into the masses or out into the universe, it literally is a vibrational resonance that goes everywhere.
I agree 100%. And
the universe hears it; it responds.
Yep, it sure does. Random acts of kindness is like you said the other day. It doesn't have to be something that costs money. It could be as simple as just lending a hand, bringing awareness to someone. Even this, for example, this radio show that we're having.
Yep.
Having the consciousness to go ahead and say, you know what, I know of a couple of people that could probably listen to the show that would get it. Maybe they haven't listened to me before, but if I send them this show, they will maybe benefit from this. Maybe their awareness is expanded. Maybe they start seeing things differently. And you might be surprised that they might be going down a rabbit hole that will totally blow them away and get them up to speed. And if they can get other people also up to speed, then we can probably hit that 100th monkey effect thing, that we're also, looking forward to happening, because it hasn't happened. And we need to all be on board, at least a good majority of us, so that we can start changing things.
And start talking about the things that nobody wants to talk about, because we can turn our heads all we want to, and believe me, for every head that turns the other way and doesn't look at what's really happening, that's just one more head that they have. That the more the merrier for them. That's what they are. That's what they're expecting. They're like, yay. So if we can start bringing this into focus, without it generating fear, without it, it's not about creating fear. It's really about looking at it and applying the vibrational energies that we all that are available to all of us.
Yeah, and remember, folks, this is information. Information should be a source of empowerment, not a source of fear. It's a source of fear if you don't want to do anything about it, and you're at the woe to me stage where it's like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. What am I going to do? Well, if the fact is that we're all thinking like that, and that's why nothing's happened, and they're counting on us acting like that.
That's exactly right.
Surprise, surprise! Wouldn't it be awesome if we stopped acting like that? Listen to this information, get empowered, and kick their asses.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
So enough is enough. They're the farmer and we're the cattle, and the gate can be opened. We need to leave the corral and trample the dude. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's only one of them.
I love your analogy, and I truly, truly believe in that. I believe that awareness and then taking action is our greatest defense. It's like fighting this war with wit and wisdom.
You got it.
And that is so very important. But again, you cannot change what you're unwilling to acknowledge.
Yep.
And it's really, really important for the collective humanity as a whole to wake up and raise your vibration, raise your consciousness, do something every day.
Yep.
That would go into the collective consciousness or be in the realm of service to others. I don't care what it is, from the smallest to the largest to whatever it is that's within your ability. And I'm telling you, prayers, blessings, communication with the God of your understanding,
that's
Creator,
it.
God, Source,
God.
Sananda, Jesus, whoever, just keep moving and evolving. And the one thing that I've noticed, even with my clients, when I do readings on people, Ari, I tell you, I see the greatest change when the client is really at the breaking point of being sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Well,
that's where the miracle happens. That's where the beauty is, and that's where the catalyst is that will get you and light fire under your butt and get you moving.
The only problem is that by the time that we all decide that we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, it may be that moment that we might be 1 second too late, and I'm hoping that we don't get to that point where we're a little too late. But we've gotten to the end.
That's why we're talking about it. That's why we're having this discussion.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been a great discussion today, Crystal. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Again, folks, if you're interested in knowing more about this information, then please stay in tune to our radio shows. We have them every so often when we get together. We will also be having Lorraine Murray back and a whole bunch of other wonderful guests as well. You may also join the 2012emergence.com website for great camaraderie with a lot of wonderful members and just wonderful subject matters. And you can also visit Crystal's website, which is sacredspacedurango.com?
Yep, sacredspacedurango.com, and that's where we have, some phenomenal products that will also be a tool and help you in combating this chemical attack amongst us.
Yep, absolutely. So, again, folks, thanks very much for tuning in tonight. You've been listening to Shattering the Matrix. My name is Ari Kopel, and my co-host, Crystal Andasola. We all hope to be able to do this again, hopefully next week. If not, whenever it is, it is. And please take care. Look up at the skies. Be aware. And God bless, and please protect your family, love your family, and most of all, connect to God.
Yep, and bless you all on your journey.
Bless you all. Good night.
Good night.